Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Transfer Roundup. So this is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Because there's a lot going on all of a sudden, and yeah, there are some teams that are capitulating, there's big news about the shock, and there's all sorts going on, and we need to make sense of it all. So, let's get into these transfers. There's actually quite a few to go through, and we will make sense of what's going on, hopefully. So we start off with the Swedish DPS player Erki. He was unassigned, but he is now retiring from Overwatch and will no longer be competing. Again, this is unfortunate, but that's kind of the way people are going right now, isn't it? If you saw the video yesterday, we've already discussed the issues. Anyway, then we have the British DPS player Sycamore from Sheer Cold. He is left Sheer Cold and is no longer assigned. So again, changes at Sheer Cold. Sheer Cold have been doing very well since they came up from Open Division Season 1 into Contenders Europe, and I'm sure they will push on further. Then we see Simplicity in North America. Now, Simplicity haven't had the best of times in Open Division Season 2, which we will go through in another video. So they have decided to oust out most of their roster. This includes the coach, Fiery Panda, the two managers, Imp and Lil Lucio, the two support players, Mozza and Gunther, and then the two tank players, Guawi and Cedro. They're all now unassigned after leaving Simplicity, and we wish them all the best. Moving on, and we have movements at the new Contenders Trials team in Control. So this is kind of a mashup of several different rosters that have kind of moved on now. So this is coming into In Control the two DPS players, the Great British player Hybrid, and the Finnish player Sunamastrari. I hope I'm getting that right. That's a difficult name to say. The British tank player White Noise, the Dutch tank player Seni, the German support player Refid, the Austrian support player Eclipse, and the two Swedish parts of the management team, the coach Almost Panda and the manager Tyler. So that's the new roster at In Control, a new team in Overwatch Contenders Trials, and will be attempting to get into Contenders for Week 3. Moving on, we have movements in NA at Sky Foxes. This is them releasing the Finnish DPS player Beppis. He is now unassigned, and we will see what happens with him in the future. Shoesman Crew EU have picked up the British player Sycamore, the DPS player that left Sheer Cold, we mentioned just now. He is now with Shoesman Crew EU. Shoesman Crew EU have had a bit of a rejuvenation this year in EU Contenders, and they're looking to push on from that. Also, some movements at Ex-Oblivione. This is Naga, the DPS player from Denmark. He is now unassigned and will no longer be with Ex-Oblivione. There's some movements at Ex-Oblivione, actually, because there's been some juggling of certain teams. So we will see what happens there. Then we have a movement at the Angry Titans with the Israeli DPS player Wayfast moving from the Angry Titans to HSL Esports. HSL Esports are rejuvenating their roster. They've added Wayfast, but they have now also promoted their entire academy roster. So this is the Swedish DPS player I Like Cows. I can't believe I've said that in the transfer roundup, but there we go. The French tank player Julo, the Irish tank player Vendetta, the French support player Barotes, the Italian support player Freu, the manager from Russia Sophie, the American coach Jeff, and the German coach Thor. So that is the new HSL Esports roster. I wish them all the best, and there's been some juggling again at the Angry Titans as well, which we'll go through in a minute. Simplicity have let go of their Norwegian DPS player Track. Again, Simplicity have not had the best time of it in Open Division Season 2 in NA, and so I'm not surprised that they are overhauling things. We will see if they come back or not. They don't have a roster anymore, but again, there won't be another Open Division season for quite a while, so we'll see what happens. And then this is the big news that you probably have heard of already. This is the disbandment of Team Envy in North America. Yet another Overwatch League Academy team, obviously of the Dallas Fuel, to fall by the wayside. Uprising Academy is the one that survived all of this. Interestingly enough, I couldn't believe I would be saying that. But Team Envy, I mean, that's a massive loss. I mean, to not have the word Envy in Overwatch Esports anymore. Yeah, I know Envy owned Dallas Fuel. I know the original Envy roster was transferred to the Dallas Fuel, so this wasn't true Envy. But this was the kind of like the baby envy, if you see what I mean. And this is a really big loss. But there is a bit of a shining light, and that is that all of the players from the roster have transferred to a new team called Team Doge, and they will continue competing in NA Contenders. So this is Kevster, Onigod, Solari, Finzi, OG, and Afox. They have all moved to Team Doge, and they will continue competing, which is great to see. And I hope that they do well. I'm sure they will do well, because Team Envy weren't a bad team at all. And it's a shame to not see Team Envy in conversation anymore. That's a real shame. Anyway, moving on. And I said there was some movements at the Angry Titans, and that's what we're going to go through now. So, remember, Mistakes, the Russian originally DPS player, is now a support player. He was with the Angry Titans. He is no longer with the Angry Titans, and will be moving on. He is now unassigned and looking for a team. I'm sure it probably won't take that long for him to find a team. But Angry Titans are getting a new roster, so they've brought in Notting Contenders into their org. So Notting Contenders was a team that came up the ranks of Open Division EU and into Contenders EU. They are now basically under the same org as Angry Titans, a bit like an academy team. Angry Titans did have Olympus, I think, as their academy team. I don't know what they have now, probably not. And so Notting Contenders, a lot of their rosters now moved to the Angry Titans. This is the Finnish DPS player Kriya, the French tank player Crocs, the French manager Yuna Cha, the French coach Buyul, and the British coach Cyrus. They are all now at Angry Titans. They've also promoted two from Olympians. This is the Irish DPS player Flex G and the British support player Abs. And then from people who are not assigned, they've brought in the Swedish player Kanasen, the Venezuelan support Kabimas, the American coach King, and the French coach Tarteg. They all now are in the Angry Titans, and that is the sum of the new Angry Titans roster. And we will see how they do. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Angry Titans have had a real tough time of it lately, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. But, of course, the next one is the news that I'm sure you definitely have heard. I've mentioned it on the community tab and everything. This is Sinatra leaving the San Francisco Shock and retiring from Overwatch Esports. He's now with the Valorant team and Sentinels. So, I wish Sinatra all the best. I don't think it's a massive loss for the Shock, let's be honest. The Shock have got a very, very varied and very, very deep lineup. And I don't think they'll miss him all that much in terms of, on the field play. But in the back room, I'm sure they will. He had a very big influence and was the face of the Overwatch League last year. So, yeah. We've already mentioned this in other videos, so I'm not going to go over it again. Moving on, though. And we have a new team again in European Contenders. Remember that we've lost quite a few, like Eternal Academy and Clockwork Vendetta. This is Disaster. Their new roster will be made up of previous teams like the old HSL lineup and the old Eternal Academy lineup. So this is the American manager Mustard, the French coach Lara Renegar, the Finnish support player Dollar, the Danish support player Ding, the Finnish tank RCK, you may remember from the Overwatch League, the Danish tank player Hengin Sen, the Finnish DPS player Bepis, and the French DPS player Suna. They're all now at Disaster, and I think that's a roster that could do pretty well in Contenders. The question is, in EU, can anyone knock the British Hurricane off of their perch right now? It's going to be very difficult. We'll see what happens. But over to NA, Square One. This is them releasing the American coach ALX and the German DPS player Fee. They are now unassigned after leaving Square One. Then at Samsung Morning Stars in the EU, we see that the Swedish manager Magister has left, the French tank player Sakan has left, and the Italian DPS player Lil Young has also left. And the Italian DPS player Hear the Beat has also left Samsung Morning Stars, and he'll be retiring entirely. Samsung Morning Stars have brought in a new roster. This is the manager Hoon from the Philippines. This is the Saudi Arabian support player Boostio, the Finnish tank player Nipper Hog, the Belgian tank player Hades 2417, the British DPS player Fees, and the Danish DPS player Bijou. They are all now with Samsung Morning Stars. They have also signed a coach from the Far East Society. This is the Norwegian coach Glatz01. He will now be with the Samsung Morning Stars as well. Moving on, and remember the coach ALX that we mentioned just now leaving Square One. He is now with HSL Esports, so we wish him all the best after being unassigned for a little tiny, very minute day. He is now with HSL. Then we have a movement at the Uprising Academy. This is them taking Frosted, the American tank player from Samsung Morning Stars, on trial at the Uprising Academy. And I'm sure he will do pretty well, because I think the Uprising Academy have seen some upturn in results. So we're living in very odd times where the Uprising Academy is probably getting better results than the Boston Uprising are. Hint Boston Uprising. Maybe there's a roster there that you might want to delve into. Anyway, moving on. New players at Square One in NA, and not just new players, but a new coach as well. This is the American coach Toki, the Dutch support player Lusa, the British tank player Brute, and the Norwegian DPS player Track. Also, Square One will be sharing a tank player. This is Cameron from Scotland or Great Britain, whichever you want to say. He will be being shared between Square One and Maryville Esports, so we'll see how that goes. And it's interesting to see a player shared like that across two teams that are not that far apart, let's say. But we've got a few more things to go through. The first is the American DPS player Samito. I'm sure you've heard of him. He is now a streamer for the Florida Mayhem, so that's really, really cool. And it's one of the rare cases that we've seen in recent times where a content creator has come into the Overwatch League. A lot have left over the past couple of years since Nate Nanza has left. Remember that Emong and Kabaji used to be linked with the Philadelphia Fusion and such, but a lot of them have now been kind of like let go. So it's nice to see a person coming in and streaming for a team. I think that's really awesome. But now we get to the juicy bits. The juicy bits. Vancouver Titans. So this is Janu and Pajon leaving the Vancouver Titans. The head coach Pajon and obviously the off-tank player Janu. By the time this video goes out, it could be more. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more. The rumours are that the entire team will be moving on, especially the runaway part of it. Janu is an interesting one because I didn't expect Janu to be the first one to leave. And he just kind of, he just mentioned the situation on his Twitter by saying, I am free. Which is, yeah, interesting. Vancouver Titans are in turmoil. I don't think we can deny that right now. In terms of what will happen, well, I'm expecting most of their roster to go, and then they'll have to pick up an American team. Because they'll be in NA. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. This is not the last of the transfers at the Vancouver Titans, I'm sure, and in the next transfer roundup, I'm sure I will be going through more of them, but yeah, there is a lot of big talent about to come on the market, possibly, and it is on the market now. I mean, Pajon is a massive head coach if someone wants one. Massive off-tanking Janu. And something you have to remember now is, even if the Titans roster was to stay as it is, they don't have a off-tank. They only have Soman Su, who is a Zarya player, if he's playing off-tank, not really a diva. So, yeah, it's the interesting times for the Titans. It's a good job they are not playing this weekend. But to round this off, we have a coach incoming at Young and Beautiful in Overwatch European Contenders, I should say. And this is Caceres coming in at Young and Beautiful, the Dutch coach, after being unassigned. I wish him all the best at Young and Beautiful. They really have got better this year, and I think they can push on and really do some cool stuff in EU Contenders. But that's going to round it out for this transfer roundup. There's going to be a lot more to go through in the next one, I'm sure. And also, obviously, there is a lot to go through in terms of Contenders and Open Division. There is an Open Division roundup coming up soon. There is a Contenders roundup coming up soon because it's all now starting up again. With some new look teams, some different teams, some missing teams. It should be really interesting. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.